Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Portland. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Lunen, and we're ready for top 8 action here. This is the quarterfinals, and we are underway with Chris Battello versus Max Nick. Chris is going to come in at number 1.
Oath of Chandra. Pretty powerful card.
Well, and that's one of the interesting things. So, Jake, you and I talking about the matchup coming in, we're saying that one of the things that can happen here is that Chris can get nabbed by a Dromoka's command. Remember, his whole entire deck revolves around not quite Dark Petition, but probably what he's going to go get with it, which is likely Demonic Pact. And the interesting thing is that he has certainly thought of this, and when he's built his deck, he's playing a ton of oaths. He's playing Oath of Jace, he's playing Oath of Chandra, so he does have some redundancy against that type of card.
Yeah, and I think that's obviously an incredible defense mechanism there. It's something that I think a lot of people hadn't thought of. You know, you have this Oath of Chandra, you have this Oath of Jace, and then your opponent casts Dromoka's command, and you're like, all right, I'll sacrifice this thing that doesn't really matter to me, and you can still just kill them. Here, Max is having some real issues not getting white mana. I mean, he finally found it with that Evolving Wilds, but he played that Jace Vryn's Prodigy on turn 2 and then just didn't really do anything.
Oh, but here we go. He's got Tamio. It's not the most powerful Tamio because there's no creatures to target and nothing really to tap down here. But, hey, Planeswalker on an empty board, I'm in for that.
That seems nice to me.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, he did it. Here's Demonic Pact. And now the clock starts ticking. You're going to see that Chris Battello has devised a clever system here. He's going to write down a symbol on that sheet of paper for every time he uses his pact.
Yeah, 4 for 4 damage, plus for draw cards.
That's right, minus for discard cards, and he doesn't really write down the other one.
No.
Plus. And what that means is he's going to draw himself some cards.
Draws 2, plus gets a draw step out of the deal. And Max is going to need a much better start than this if he wants to handle.
Oh, yeah. No pressure?
Chris Battello. I mean, this is... the thing is, in a matchup like this, Max, his goal is to be aggressive and to end the game before Chris Battello is able to establish control and generate a ton of card advantage. And at this point, it looks like he's going to have a lot of trouble doing that. This Demonic Pact is going to get to do everything that it wants to do.
And it looks like Chris is just going to Radiant Flames right now to get rid of that Spell Queller that had gobbled up Liliana. And that, of course, is going to let him cast Liliana right now. And now he's the one with the powerful Planeswalker here as well. But Demonic Pact, a real issue here for Max. And again, that Oath of Chandra just annoyingly sitting there, because even if he does draw Dromoka's command, oh, you're not going to like this one, Max. This is what we call bad news, my friend. The problem with it, of course, is that from Chris's perspective, from Max's perspective, is that Chris gets to keep generating value. Now, if he does not find a way to ship it over to Max, well, hey, then Max has his own win condition just lined up there. The problem is that Chris also has backup plans. In his hand right now, he's got to disperse. He can use the 3 good things from Demonic Pact, get 2 cards, make you discard, maybe kill a creature, and then just do it all over again after that.
Yeah, you get a 5 for 1, and then you get another 5 for 1.
That's right.
It's pretty nice.
In the meantime,
Demonic Pact feels a lot like Cruel Ultimatum when you get to use all 3 modes and then disperse it back to your hand.
Yeah, you know the other thing it feels like? It feels like a Planeswalker that you can't attack.
Yeah. It
with the obviously strict downside of sometimes just losing you the game. But hey.
Now, some interesting stuff going on here. Now, Chris almost certainly does not want to give the Demonic Pact up before it's used up all of its good abilities in a matchup like this, because Max could then use Dromoka's command to make himself sacrifice the enchantment. Also worth noting that once there is enough mana available, or once there is an opportunity to hand the Demonic Pact over, once it's used all of its good modes, Max could always leave open that white-green. so that he could target himself. Then again, Chris has counter magic, so this could be really interesting.
It is funny. He has to leave that mana open if that is his plan, because if he's tapped out and Chris says, here, take my Pact, go,
Yeah.
triggers happen, right?
The trigger will happen, and he'll only have the option to lose the game. So he has to always leave open white-green, have the Jerkomoko's command in hand, and be able to dodge counter magic from Chris Battello.
Yeah, and that is a look of the face of somebody who realizes the quandary that he's in. So what he's done is he plussed Tamiyo, targeted his advocate, and then attacked. Draws him an extra card. You can see the +1 ability on Tamiyo Field Researcher. Tamiyo's been impressive.
Tamiyo's been pretty good when we've seen her in action this weekend.
She has. This isn't her greatest showing, and she's still doing some work here. And there's a Thalia for Max.
Yeah, this game has not been the best Tamiyo game.
No. All right, and here's minus. So Chris is now going to have Max discard 2 cards, which he does. He's still got 2 left, though. Wow, 2 Reflector Mages.
Yeah, Chris Battello not playing any creatures. Those Reflector Mages not quite what they are in many matchups.
All right, and he's going for it. He says, I've got a little gift for you. Does Max have the Dromoka's command?
I believe he does, but he doesn't have white mana here.
Okay, so he's going to do it now. Does this work, though, Jake?
I do not think so.
Like, doesn't the ability still just go on this deck? Let's find out.
Yeah.
I've not actually seen this happen on the weekend.
At the beginning of your upkeep.
No, it definitely triggers.
Right? Yeah.
And as far as I know, the trigger's going to resolve, and it says you lose the game.
Yeah.
I don't think it cares whether the Pact is still there.
No, it.
And they are scooping him up. So, yeah, that is
Yeah.
exactly what happened. All right, well, good try, Max.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's not a... Look,
it's not completely unreasonable because that if it were relative to, like, it somehow putting counters on itself so that you know what abilities you use or something like that, then maybe that would work because it wouldn't be in play, it wouldn't have the stuff.
No,
but
yeah.
the thing is that you just choose one that hasn't been chosen yet. So...
Well, it looks like we came just in time for Paul Rietzl to get Emrakuled here. Robert Santana has just passed the turn back after casting an Emrakul. That's the draw step for the turn for Paul. And while Robert is down to 8 life, he's about to lose Nissa. She's going to go on a ill-advised attack step at some point here.
Yeah, this doesn't look great for Paul.
It's really bad. I mean, we came at just the critical juncture here. Emrakul hit in the battlefield. Block. Okay, so that part was easy. You going to cast anything? Cast Spell Queller. Spell Queller the Spell Queller? What are you going to do now? No, can't do that.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work out.
No mana.
I can't cast anything else. Well, he advanced Paul's board for him a little bit. It's probably not what he meant to do.
He maybe hadn't
the
quite thought
mana
through
was
the
a
mana
little bit
yeah.
little bit odd there. Paul probably not happy with his mana this game the way it's gone, but they're kind of worked out for him a little bit. I mean, still, he's facing up against a 13-13.
Oh, Collected Company off the top will work for Paul Rietzl, though. Let's see what he can find now.
Yeah, needs to find something good here.
Maybe 2 something's good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he found a couple of flyers.
Yeah,
This
not too
does
bad.
count, especially if he could just play one more card. It's funny that Spell Queller that Robert played could end up being kind of awkward for him because now look what's happening here. Paul has now assembled 2,
Yep.
4, 6, 8 damage.
Yeah, and Robert cannot use Emrakul the next turn because of the Reflector Mage. So
Huh.
it looks like,
Like,
yeah, Robert could have used that Reflector Mage to, target something else, but now he's in a rough spot.
down to 6, it seems?
Yep. Wow. And
That
Paul,
could come back to bite Robert pretty hard here.
Yeah, Paul snatching victory from the clutches of defeat.
Well, now let's not be too quick. Robert's got like 5 cards in his hand.
Oh, yeah, I mean, not necessarily, but the fact that he even has a shot here is blowing my mind.
Let's see if Robert can come back from this. It looked so good when we came into the match, but he played that Spell Queller, and then Paul hit. There's a Mind Rack Demon. It looks like his graveyard's pretty well developed here. I'm going to go ahead and assume that he's got Delirium many times over. In fact, I know he does. So he has successfully blunted the assault, at least as it sits. And then it looks like Robert also has... Okay, he's got a To the Slaughter to take down one of these creatures. Well, with all those cards in hand for Robert, it looks like he may be able to retool this game here. And
yeah, next
possibly
turn then
come
he'll
away
be able
with
to
the
cast
win.
Emrakul again. So
Yeah.
Paul's going to need a very nice top deck here to be able to win this game. And he could still conceivably collect a company into a pair of Reflector Mages. There are a lot of things that could happen. I mean, this...
Well, oh, he drew a collected company.
Oh, the sweat is real.
He drew a collected company off the top. That's back-to-back collected companies for Rietzl. Spin the wheel.
let's see.
There's one.
Oh,
But not the
so
second. Does this
close.
get him there?
Oh, my goodness. This is crazy.
Does this do it, though? It doesn't win him right here. We know that there's a chump block incoming. That puts Robert down to 4, but with an Emrakul,
Yeah, the Emrakul doesn't really...
does it really do enough here?
I don't think it does. This is unbelievable.
And doesn't Paul have another Spell Queller in his hand as well? We'll find out. I
don't
didn't mean
think
to put
so,
you on
but-
the spot, Jake.
Yeah.
I just... We'll find out what he has there as well. That could be really important. Like, if Robert wants to go, like, pay 6 for Emrakul and then have, like, Liliana to kill or to shrink down a creature, or something, it could be. It feels like Paul's got this, though, doesn't it?
It feels
to you,
like
Jake?
Paul's got it. Yeah, I mean, the ways that Paul does not have it are, in my mind, languish.
Uh-oh. Languish? All right, it's going to be Liliana the Last Hope. It is a Spell Queller in hand, Jake.
Oh, my goodness. So he's... I think you just let Liliana resolve. It
So
doesn't do much.
Paul's more worried about languish here and
Yes.
just says, that's the card that matters. If you take out one of my creatures with Liliana, even if you play Emrakul after, he could still do it. We're going to stay on this match and see how it finishes up. Our main table is underway, but I'm going to keep us here for now. Ah, there it is, down in the lower right-hand corner if you want to keep up on what's going on with that. But I have to see if Paul actually pulls out this win over Robert, or if Robert can capitalize on having cast Emrakul a couple of times and finish this thing.
Yeah, I mean, even if he's able to cast it again, I think he's just dead this next turn. Is this Liliana still in the stack? What are we...
I do believe she is.
Okay.
I don't see any dice
Mm-hmm.
coming out. What a tough decision here for Paul.
Yeah, this is not easy.
I think he's taking your line. Wow, and we see minus. Was that a Kozilek's return that just went in the graveyard?
Oh, my goodness.
Is that exactly what he was trying to hit? Because there's Emrakul. Oh, my God. Robert Santana just hit exactly what he needed to off of Liliana.
Wow. Brutal.
And Paul's going to respond by activating Duskwatch Recruiter. Unbelievable. That is insane.
That is absolutely
Wow, Paul
insane.
Rietzl just gets punished to the absolute maximum here. Because he could have taken out Liliana and just said, all right, if you've got the languish, fine. But you have to think that he made the right play. If there was no Kozilek's return in the graveyard,
Yeah, it's really hard to make any
then
other
he
play.
has to minus, and he hit it off the next two to get there. I like Paul's play, but wow, did it backfire on him here.
It did not end up working out well.
Can he find the win here anyway? Rietzl has been up against it each time. He's just going to play a land and pass.
And the Ishkana kind of closes the window here.
Yeah, he got... Was that like the best Liliana minus ever? He hit Ishkana and
Yeah, I think
Kozilek's return. Oh,
I think
my
that
God.
that definitely enters the Hall of Fame of Liliana -2 activations. Also, pretty high stakes situation for that to happen.
And there's that Ishkana. Tell you what, though, Paul's not going to give up here. He's going to take a hit.
Yeah.
That was
Falls down to 6.
incredible. Paul draws his card for the turn. He's down to 6, though. Our life total is showing 19.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see a possible line for him to get back into this. but-
Ishkana so brutal at just holding down the fort. We've seen Bant Company with the ability to beat an Ishkana, but it doesn't happen the next turn.
Very rarely.
Yeah. And this should do it. Paul's going to make him earn it here, but I think he's just going to have to attack.
Yeah.
Paul with just a Spell Queller and a Lumbering Falls available. Doesn't look good. He's going to Distended Mindbender to clear the way. And wow, is Archangel Avacyn still not enough?
Still not enough, but
And there we go. You can block, sure.
yeah.
And then that's it. All right, so Robert says, yes, she does have trample. And man, he pulled out a win there. What a heartbreaker for Rietzl. But Robert put himself in a tough spot, got there, and he picks up the first game. So
That was unbelievable.
that was unbelievable. Back to Chris Botelho versus Mick. Looks like Battello has a much better, Mick has a much, much better start than he did in the previous game. Now he's got a board state. He's got pressure. He's working it now.
This is what you want the board to look like on
Yeah.
turn 5 when you're playing Bant Company deck.
Well, I got to say, Jake, our timing has been really good. We come into these key
It's
moments
so
in
good.
each of these games. That was a languish to just completely wipe the board. Chris doesn't have anything else going on yet.
Hilarious. I mean, he has a pair of clues there. He can definitely rebuild. The deck is quite good at rebuilding.
He's going to start things off with an Evolving Wilds. And then either deploy some threats or start cracking some clues. We shall see.
Ideally, he wants to be deploying some threats here. His opponent, Chris, only has 2 mana untapped. We know that he has access to... Ooh, okay. Only using 2 mana there. Not really the greatest. He gets 4/5 out of the deal, though.
All right, Demonic Pact. Hello, hello.
Everyone's favorite Grand Prix Portland breakout card.
Indeed.
Demonic Pact is just so powerful. It's a card that I really expected to see more of.
Okay, that's interesting as well. Selfless Spirit. Oh. It's a little less interesting now that it's going to be in the graveyard thanks to a Grasp of Darkness. Interesting pause there from Max. Does he have negates out of the sideboard?
He has, yes, 2 copies of negate out of the board.
Okay. That's something that Chris may have noted as well. And it looks like Chris decided to do 4 damage to the Advocate. Let's see if he can finish it off here. Yes, he can. And there's the negate. So he did actually have negate. We saw that pause from him, and I'm not surprised to see it here.
He would have loved to have had that negate to counter the Pact, but now this Pact going to draw some cards in addition to having already killed a creature and gained 4 life.
Well, it didn't quite kill the creature for him. He tried to double up there.
Mm-hmm. Well,
the 4 life he did get, though.
He did get the 4 life out of it.
Yeah, and he forced a negate. So
it's pretty good to not have that negate in your opponent's hand also.
Yeah, may have been better for Chris to just go ahead and run out the Oath of Chandra first. If it gets negated, then you can do it to your opponent. It's probably not a big deal in the matchup, though. And
I guess that's lethal damage from Max.
Okay, yeah, Chris is down to 7.
Yeah, Chris
and
just didn't have any.
Wow,
didn't have any answers in hand. He had a bunch of cards there. Perhaps he just had drawn a bunch of lands.
You kind of saw him do the shoot thing with his hand there, but I honestly surprised. Thought he was just supposed to resolve Pact, and then things went well. It didn't go out that way at all, did it?
No. I mean, getting 2 Pact triggers is a lot for that mana cost.
How do you mean?
I mean, you draw 2 cards, deal 4, and gain 4 life.
You're getting a lot for
4 mana. Yeah,
for sure.
That's a nice deal. I'd take that every time.
Yeah, agreed. And you'd think he'd get it. All right, here's Michael Hance versus Travis Wu. Travis is playing a black-white Planeswalker build here. And you can see that Oath of Liliana helping out get the value rolling with his Planeswalkers. Uh-oh, but right in time. Man, what is it with us today, Jake? Every time we come to a match, something devastating happens to one player or the other. In this case, it's going to be an Emrakul for Michael. Whoa, triple read the bones.
Those bones have so many words on them.
He can cast 2 of them. That does say opponent, by the way. That's a Blighted Fen. This came up at the Pro Tour for the first time of somebody tried to target themselves with it, but you cannot do that with Blighted Fen. Well, that's a lot of bones, and that's a lot of reading for Michael here. He's also going to gobble up Kalidas and also a token. So that's going to wipe the board for Wu. Wow, this is going to be tough to recover from. The other interesting thing is that, Michael can... interesting. It looked like he just...
The problem is Travis is going to draw those cards no matter what.
Yeah, but I mean, it is Scry 2. You can,
you can put the ones that matter on the bottom.
Mess with it a little bit, but I like this line much better.
I like this better.
Yeah, he's going to get the cards, so don't make it easy on him. Make him spend mana on his turn and crimp his mana in the meantime.
So Planar Outpost should be pretty nice here.
Bottom.
Yeah, very specific cards Travis is looking for.
Very awkward for Travis as well because he is now facing lethal, and that's going to do it. Now, as you can see, though, Travis had taken down Game 1 while we were watching Table A there, so that actually is going to force Game 3 between these 2 players.
Yeah, and Travis is going to get to be on the play in that 3rd game.
Back to business with Chris Battello versus Mick, excuse me.
And now going to Game 3, Chris Battello, the hero of this weekend. I think that this is probably one of the most exciting things as far as deck innovation in Standard in a little while. I know I saw Joshua Claytor on Facebook talking a lot about this strategy about using Harmless Offering alongside Demonic Pact.
For sure.
And, he talked about, I think he wrote an article about it this week. He was talking about it on the internet. A lot of people were having conversations with him. And now Chris Battello running the tables here this weekend.
Max Mick is going to try to beat him. He kind of looks like Mini Martel.
He does.
He's got the same mannerisms, too.
A Pro Tour champion,
PT
Tom Martel.
champ, man. Chris Battello is going to crack an Evolving Wilds here. Go get an island.
So this turn's pretty important. Max really needs a 2-drop. Needs to apply that pressure quickly.
Big turn here for Max.
Yeah, Selfless Spirit is dangerous. That's what he kind of at the front of his hand.
He's decided to do nothing.
Ooh.
And there's an Oath of Jace for Chris.
Could be bad. You really want to curve out when you're playing this Bant Company deck. You need to be applying pressure quickly on the opponent. Max Mick may have a hand that has multiple copies of a card like Jamoka's Command, which is obviously strong in the matchup, but as we see here, Chris Battello using Oath of Jace, he's able to protect that card.
So no board state at all for Max here.
Yeah, and it looks like his hand's just a pile of Jamoka's Commands. He had Spell Queller there, chose not to play it on the end step.
Well, he couldn't. He didn't have blue mana
he didn't have blue yet.
No.
Oh.
He is just really sticking to those Dromoka's commands, it looks like. Here's Anticipate now for Chris.
Chris now would really love to find Liliana, the last hope. Just snipe off that spirit.
Curious to see if Max just ends up firing off a Dromoka's command, like just thinking, well, I've got to whittle through whatever it is that you have here anyway.
I don't even think it would be that bad, especially if the Liliana play happened, because at that point it would save your Selfless Spirit in addition to getting the Oath off the table. And if he has redundant copies,
starting to look a little worse here, though. And there's Dromoka's command. And he's just going to use it basically to kill one of the oaths. And wow, did that work out poorly for Max, though, because Chris Battello had another Oath of Jace anyway.
Yeah, so here Max...
And he's just
burning
sort of
cards for nothing
oaths.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, he really got nothing out of that at all. And another Oath of Chandra here for Chris. And I got to say, this draw from Max has not lined up the way he needed it to.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Max. You know, you play a Dromoka's command for no value after having kind of carefully left it up, and it's so hard to come back from a thing like that. You know, he can't prevent the damage from an Oath of Chandra, and his Selfless Spirit just died anyway.
Oath of Chandra. Nice incidental damage card.
Yeah.
Card that I'm surprised hasn't seen as much play as one might have expected it to. Big mitigating factor being that the decks that play a lot of Planeswalkers don't really play red these days.
Exactly. Black and white, that's where it's at. Okay, here's a Spell Queller now for Max. No Collected Company for him, though. Would have been pretty ideal there.
Absolutely.
He'll take a Spell Queller for empties. Oh, he just drew a Collected Company. Hello.
Ooh, that's a nice draw step.
Yeah. So
Chris Battello's still at 18, though.
I know. That's the problem, is that he's really just had so much time to dig around for the things that he needs. Now he's going to Anticipate again. And, you know, he's playing these, like, slightly subpar cards, right? Like, Anticipate's a card that doesn't see a ton of play because it's a little too clunky. Oath of Jace hasn't really seen play. Same thing. It's just a little slow. Sorcery speed. It doesn't dig you quite far enough. But, you know, you give him a little bit of time, and he's making these cards look great. And here we go. Dark Petition now from Chris. Max does not fire off the company.
dollars to donuts that we're going to see a demonic pact.
You've got a hunch? Max deciding not to go for the spell queller off of his collected company in response. I actually wouldn't do anything anyway. I guess he has to wait for that, doesn't he?
He has to wait to see.
Yeah, so in that case, I think he's just going to fire off the company anyway. That's exactly what he does.
Oh, Chris wants to protect with counter magic, or he may have searched for a different card. He may have searched for a reactive card.
All right, let's see what Max hits. This is big for him. If Max is going to get by Chris here, he's going to have to hit big time, and he did not.
No, that is certainly not big time.
Yikes. Just another 2-power flyer. Now, he gets to jam here for 4 damage and at least get a clock going, right? I mean...
Yeah. Finally, he's getting in for a little bit of damage.
He's finally starting to.
Chris has been sculpting his hand. Chris has just essentially cast Demonic Tutor and said go the turn prior.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine this ends well for Max Mick.
No,
here.
though Max does have a significant number of cards in hand, and I saw that he has a negate in there as well. He's also got a 3rd spell queller available, though I believe still only the 1 blue mana source, so he won't be able to play both. So I think he's just going to negate or quell here. All right, he's going to go for spell queller, but if this were to die, we've seen a lot of Grasp of Darknesses from Chris.
Yeah, and I mean, he has access to black, blue, black, red.
He does. Does he have an answer? Negative. He passes the turn back. This is great news for Max Mick.
Yeah, I mean...
And now he gets to untap with that negate as well.
And that puts him in a pretty good spot. I mean,
Yeah.
that negate really has to protect that 1 spell queller. That's...
Chris
it has
tapped
one job.
Chris tapped out last turn, got nothing out of it. And now all of a sudden, Max is turning on the afterburners here. Plays a 4/5 Sylvan Advocate and passes.
That's lethal damage on board. And he has a Dromoka's Command in hand, which he can use to counter a card like Radiant Flames. He has Negate in hand to protect this spell queller.
I think Max is going to win.
I think Max is going to win after that awful collected company and not doing anything on any turn.
We've talked about it earlier in the day here, Jake. You know, the previous 2 turns from Chris netted in nothing affecting the board.
Yeah.
He played a Dark Petition. It resolved, but, you know, nothing happens. Then he went for the Pact, got that gobbled up by a spell queller, and now he's just looking in terrible shape. Ooh, did I speak too soon?
Ooh,
that's a Dragon Lord
Silumgar.
Okay.
It's a pretty exciting card.
It does keep him alive, except for he's just going to fight them in response. Now, that does also still keep him alive, though, right?
Yes.
He's only going to take 6. There's no Lumbering Falls looming, but I think he's just kind of dead. Like, even Languish doesn't get him out of this now because Max is just going to sit there and leave up Negate. Max Mick is going to defeat Chris Battello. I'm getting more certain by the moment.
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly things that could happen from the other end that could change that, but...
Let's find out what he has. Dark Petition. And Max says, yeah, sure. I'll just counter whatever you get with it.
He's gonna go find that Languish, I imagine.
Yeah, I think he's got Spell Mastery now, so... You know, this is Chris's last hope, but unless he has, like, a Dispel in his hand or something...
Yeah, which would not be unreasonable to bring in against a deck that's playing Collected Company and post-board counter magic.
This is a big moment for Chris. He is leaving that blue mana up. There's that Languish. There's Negate. And that's game.
Wow.
And Max Mick takes it down.
14-year-old Max Mick beats
on to
Chris
the
Battello.
semifinals. Great run from Chris Battello, though. Fantastic stuff from him. I love the deck that he brought to the table, and he should be proud of himself on an awesome weekend. Now, we'll see at the Pro Tour, Chris. But in the meantime, Max Mick continues on his charge through the top 8 here. And he's in the semifinals. So let's jump down, and it looks like we've reached Game 3 between Paul Rietzl and Robert Santana. We saw an exciting and tumultuous game earlier when we showed up, and now we'll see how this one pans out. We're a little earlier this time.
Yeah, Paul was able to get on the board quickly in Game 2, presumably. He had the play. Again, his deck just plays the same way. almost every game. This game is the slowest we've seen as far as starts go. 2 comes into play tap lands here from Paul. And Paul can't be thrilled with that. Not the opening that he's looking for.
And here's a grapple with the pass from Santana.
Grapple with the pass has really, changed this standard format dramatically.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Acts as a tutor. Gets people delirium.
Finds you land drops.
Yeah.
He got Ishkana Graph Widow back with that and then passed the turn back to Rietzl, who really needs to get on the board now. Tap lands early can be pretty rough. He's got a Sylvan Advocate, and there's that Evolving Wilds now for Rietzl as well. All right, that helps. That works.
Something. Robert Santana's got to feel like $1 million, though. I mean, he's 1 turn off of casting Ishkana, and he's at 20. He's staring down a single 2/3.
Man, when you put it that way. Here's Nissa Vastwood Seer.
This is a judge announcement. Level 3 judges who are available may meet in the deck check area next to the main stage.
Another planes there.
Level 3 judges available, please meet in the deck check area next to the main stage.
Robert Santana has a Languish in his hand as well. Did not have the second black mana apparently to cast it, though. And maybe he just didn't want to.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
wait
you
for
can
a
make
bit
an
more
argument
value.
for it, but yeah. It's a little awkward now that he's got the Nissa because she's not going to transform for a while. Wow, he just chump blocked with Nissa there?
Yeah, it's aggressive.
That's going to send up red flags for one of the best players in the world, Paul Rietzl. And he's just going to pump the brakes here, though.
And one of the best players of all time,
Yeah,
even.
he's just an absolute fantastic player. We talked about him a little earlier in the day. If you listen to an interview with him, he won't admit that.
Yeah.
He will talk about his friends. He will talk about other players that he thinks are great.
Like, oh, I run so well.
But Paul
I'm
is
sure, Paul.
absolutely one of the best technical players in our game. He's one of the hardest workers as well. And Paul, unfortunately for him, he plays a Collected Company. Only hits Nissa here, though. You know, he's really designed this deck so that that happens an absolute minimum amount of the time, but it did here.
Yeah.
Just hit one creature. Robert has now played Ishkana Graph Widows, you can see, and she's brought friends.
And Ishkana, it's one of the big innovations for beating Bant Company. All these Delirium decks have been using Ishkana as a follow-up to a board sweeper as a way to kind of seal the deal when they're playing against these Bant Company decks. And I'm thinking it looks pretty good right here.
Yeah. You know, I'm looking at his graveyard too, Roberts. I think that was the only creature in his yard, so he must have chump blocked in that situation just because he really wanted the 3 spiders from Ishkana.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's
knowing that
very
he was-
reasonable. Those 3 spiders were better than the 2/2 body that Nissa brought.
God, but Nissa becomes a planeswalker sometimes. It's tough to give that up.
He can always rebuy it.
That is a good point. She's just hanging out in the graveyard temporarily.
Oh, wow. Extended Mindbender. It's very strong here.
It's a card I expect to see even more of as we move forward in Standard.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorite emerge spells, I think. That. Oh, so Paul definitely has some action here.
Yeah, they're all 3s or below, though. So the Mindbender is not going to... It's not going to get 2 cards here, at least.
It's a shame we won't be seeing any more of Chris Battello. That awesome Cat Pack deck.
Yeah, I think everybody was a little bummed about that, but hey, Max Mick, 14 years old, putting himself in the semis is pretty cool too. I might actually have a chance to chat with Chris as well.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. Okay, so he made him discard a spell queller there, and Paul really hoping to start peeling collected companies over and over and over again. Instead, he finds a forest this time.
So really tight play there from Robert, taking the spell queller, then casting a spell into the other spell queller that's in Paul's hand when we know that he is a languish. So now he can just chump block really aggressively with these spider tokens, and then languish just cleans up the whole board, and he gets a traverse to go get whatever he wants to follow up.
Selfless Spirit here for Rietzl. And he's going to go ahead and put Distended Mindbender back in hand, as Robert really doesn't have any great way at this point to recast it, but this is not going to work out well for Rietzl here because of what you mentioned.
Yeah.
Languish. Ouch.
And this is a real big languish.
Yeah, the writing's going to be on the wall because Robert's going to ship in there with the 2 spiders, and Paul's going to go, welp.
And
Hope we draw some collected companies.
he does have 6 lands in play, so Sylvan Advocate can stick around.
As long as he doesn't block with it. And Paul now knows what's up. It's a good point, though, Jake. Leaving the Sylvan Advocate behind's a real deal. And then there's that traverse that you mentioned as well. That spell queller so kindly holding on to it for Robert Santana. Now he gets to go dig up Emrakul or whatever he wants.
Emrakul seems like a pretty good one.
Yeah, as long as he has another land here, but
He doesn't have a Planeswalker in the yard, though. Doesn't have the artifact in the yard. It may not be Emrakul in the spot. It could be another copy of Ishkana.
he's going to get a land. He's going to get a land. Cinderglade's the choice. Okay. That's got to be even scarier for Rietzl than him going to get Emrakul.
Yeah. I mean, that means he has...
Yeah, you can see why. He's got a Dragon Master Outcast. Needed that 6th land.
Dragon Master Outcast has been some awesome tech against Bant Company for the last 4 months. People see it and are like, whoa, I haven't noticed that as a cyber card. So, yeah,
Well, people are take out their Dromoka's commands against deck like this. Is that the deal?
Yeah, I mean, Dromoka's command really underpowered in these types of matchups. So you bring in Dragon Master Outcast and it just starts churning out 5/5s after you've swept the board. And then cards like Ishkana and Emrakul are the nails in the coffin, if you will. All right, so Paul getting some card advantage here off this Nissa Sage Animist. Starting to apply a bit of pressure. I mean, that's a lot of damage. Sylvan Advocate lays it on thick.
Yeah, Robert's down to 11.
The +2/+2 to lands has been so relevant this weekend.
And there's a dragon token for Robert. Sorry if our stream had an issue there. Welcome back. I know it blinked.
Oh, it did.
It did. But we're back. We're back. We missed you. This has not gone well for Paul Rietzl. His deck had been humming along real nice all weekend.
Been watching some amazing games from him. I think that this game was I think one of the games where we saw his mana base cause problems. He had a couple lands that came into play tapped. It put him behind. That was it. And here comes Ishkana, Graph Widow. And like we've talked about previously, this is just a nail in the coffin.
Rietzel's in battle mode here. He really does excel at this part of the game, you know, where you find yourself in a situation where you're behind, but you're fighting for every tiny little percentage point. He's really, really good at this.
Yeah.
You know, he's a fighter. You know,
Yeah.
Paul is like, when he's ahead, he knows that he needs to buckle down and focus, but when he's behind, there's few players out here on the professional scene that focus in and dial in as hard as Paul Rietzl does. And I mean, he knows he's not in great shape here. He knows he's way behind, but it's all about those small edges. In the meantime, Santana is just going off here after having cast that Ishkana again and still have, now that's the second turn in a row with the active Dragon Master. Oh, but a nice one here for Paul Rietzl. He's found Archangel Avacyn.
That is quite nice.
Yeah, it's going to get in the way of the dragon and save Nissa. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any other flyer to throw in front of the dragon additionally to gobble it up with his indestructible creatures, but it was going to kill Nissa, so he gets to save that and now have, of course, an Archangel Avacyn.
It's not completely out of the question for Paul to win this game, is it?
Of course not. It never is with Rietzl. That's the thing. You start to see where he's going with these lines, and it's like, wow, he is actually still in this game.
I think he's working to a Nissa ultimate. Is that
does,
possible?
That does seem to be, and I don't think he can get there given the scenario that he's got, because those dragons are just bigger than Archangel Avacyn. Next turn, he can just attack with both at Nissa and knock her down a notch or 10.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good.
It does
but
not.
it looks possible.
Agreed. Is that another one of your inspirational posters?
It doesn't look good, but it looks possible.
Hang that up in the office. And here's Distended Mindbender again. Now, the good news for Paul in this case is that he's empty-handed, so he doesn't have to worry about it. The bad news is that he's empty-handed. And his opponent's casting Mindbender, sacrificing Ishkanaz, recasting Ishkanaz, and he's facing an army of spiders. Now, we haven't seen this much in the feature match area here, but Ishkanaz could get activated here as well.
Yeah, Ishkana now draining for 7.
Mm-hmm. That's for 7 mana as well.
Yeah.
Target opponent loses 1 life for each spider you control. And Ishkana plus all the little baby spiders is 7.
We may see a clue get sacrificed here.
Desperation. If he can get Archangel Avacyn transformed, that would clear away the small spiders and the Dragon Master outcast, but then he's still facing down 2 dragons. There will be another dragon as well, because it'll be the upkeep for Robert, and a 5/5 Distended Mindbender along with Ishkana.
Yeah. Again, it does not look good.
I love that Paul's fighting the fight. That's what I really care about. And, you know, I think he's got a selfless spirit now as well.
That gives him another turn, in which case he'll get a couple cracks at trying to find Collected Company. And with Tireless Tracker and Nissa in play, it's really is quite a few cracks. Is it too much to ask to see Ishkana Graph Widow get activated? We've seen it once this weekend when...
We saw it verbally activated, but no mana was tapped.
Yeah, well, it was...
I don't think it counts, Jake.
The way it went, the way the game ended.
Yeah.
That doesn't count?
No, I got to see. I want to see this for real.
6 loyalty on that Nissa.
You can see Paul's now deep in the tank here. He just read the other side of Archangel Avacyn just to make sure. What is it exactly that I can do to get out of this? If he transforms the Archangel, kills all the spiders.
Leaves himself with a Tireless Tracker and a big Avacyn. Nissa now on
And
6
an
loyalty. Takes
and an
7 to
advocate.
ultimate it. That's true. And that advocate helps those lumbering falls, too. This would just be insane if Paul won this game.
So what does Nissa's ultimate do in this scenario?
So Nissa's ultimate untaps 6 lands
Yeah.
and turns them into 6/6 creatures.
Okay. That does not look good enough here, does it?
Well, right now all these spiders are getting cleared up.
Hey, all right. So he's going for it. Paul's decided that this is the line that he's going to take. He's going to shut off the dragon engine. But as I mentioned before, it was Robert's upkeep, so he's still going to get that one last dragon. And I think that what you said makes some sense. I think he's going to need to find some collected companies, maybe hit some reflector mages, bounce some dragons, and try to claw his way back into this. This is the fact that he's still alive at all is amazing to me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Can also tell you that Oliver Tomajko versus Tanner von Difloe.
We're going to game 3.
Yeah, they're going to game 3, exactly. Can also tell you that Travis Wu has advanced to the semifinals. He beat Michael Hance
Wow.
in 3.
Black-White Planeswalker is going to get to face off against Bant Company. It's exactly where it wants to be.
All right, and here's Vessel,
Ooh,
which, by
dropping
the way, does see a Kozilek's return. Just saying.
very relevant.
I don't think he really wants to use it here with 4 5/5s and a 5 toughness spider, but
Yeah, right now dealing
kind of
5
card
to
you want to
everything
note.
is,
You know,
yeah.
it's the kind of card you want to note. You want to be aware of.
Certainly a card that could matter.
Yeah. 2 cards in hand for Rietzl. Robert has 2 dragons that are not summoning sick, plus 5/5 on the ground and the Graph Widow. So he certainly has attacks available if he wants to try to attack Nissa here. Oop, not that dragon, though. There we go. That's the dragon that he got this turn on Summoning Sickness. So he's just going to send both dragons. And Paul can either trade off Avacyn and have Nissa still stay alive, or he can just let Avacyn go. He's going to have Nissa stay alive. And that represents another card drawn for him next turn, so it makes sense.
It's another card drawn for him next turn. Can find Collected Company, which right now is really what he needs.
Yes. Maybe multiple copies is what he needs.
Perhaps.
He can cast multiple copies, by the way. Big draw steps here for Rietzl, who's just hanging on and fighting. Trying to fend off Robert Santana, who's really hit the meat of his strategy here with Ishkana being cast twice. He got to go off with the Dragon Master Outcast for multiple turns. There's a clue from Paul.
Wow.
Paul's at 20. See a Lumbering Falls up there. He's got that Advocate pumping it up to a 5/5.
Yeah, Paul really doing his best here. It doesn't really seem like Robert has a clean way to victory here, even after having been so far ahead. I mean, he's certainly very far ahead still, but
His stomach has to just be tightening up right now, like, oh, God. Why do I have to play Paul Rietzl in my first quarterfinal match here at the GP? Why? I had this game. It does look like he's still in good shape, though, to be fair to Robert. And that's a second Sylvan Advocate. Are we going to see that Lumbering Falls rumbling, bumbling, stumbling over the red zone here?
I think we are. I mean, it's a 7/7.
Wow, and the Tireless Tracker as well. Robert's at 8. Also, there's a Selfless Spirit there that can protect the creatures. All right, now I'm starting to get nervous. This is insane.
Yeah, this is kind of insane, and it's not even like he did it with what card does he need? He's like, I am going to just draw general mean level, completely average from this point forward and find a way to win this game.
Yeah, you and I were kind of like, oh, what if he finds collected company and a reflector of mages and then another just like these kind
Yeah.
of unlikely string of events. But Paul has just calmly ground his way through.
Yeah.
Cracking a couple of clues from Tireless Tracker, getting cards off of Nissa.
Yeah,
I gotta
this
say,
is
I
just
love watching Paul play
incredible.
Magic, man.
Me too.
I know he can be unassuming, but this is just incredible. It looks like Roberts decided that Dragon will block Tireless Tracker, which most likely will, if that is the final block, will have Paul sacrifice his Selfless Spirit to keep that tracker around. And Robert's going to go to 1 here?
Oh my goodness. Whoa.
That Selfless Spirit really, really annoying here for Robert. Now, Paul can save his Tireless Tracker and maintain the board state here, but then he doesn't get to do that trick later.
Yeah,
Right,
with
and
his
now-
opponent at 1, then the Avacyn trick with Selfless Spirit,
Then the what?
obviously very strong.
Oh, if he finds an Avacyn?
Yeah, if he's able to find an Avacyn later on.
Sure. And you know what? He let it go. He said, all right, you did it. And Robert Santana is somehow down to 1 here.
I'm pretty surprised that Paul didn't go ahead and use the Selfless Spirit there.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I feel like the Tireless Tracker has really been what's kept him in this game.
Oh, my God. There's Emrakul for Robert Santana.
Oh.
So in response, Paul is going to sacrifice Selfless Spirit. This could have been what he was scared of. Also, the Spirit gave him a blocker for the dragon to keep Nissa alive. Let's keep that in mind as well. But this is Emrakul now for Robert. Oh, man. Paul is out of gas and has nothing here. But unfortunately, he's going to lose his board here. Like all of it. The Lumbering Falls and both of these advocates are going to die. Lumbering Falls is going to lumber right into Emrakul. And then the advocates are going to get gobbled up by 5/5s here. Oh,
Yeah.
Such devastation.
Make a 4/4.
Yep,
Yep.
you're right. Make a 4. That's smart, too.
Very smart.
4/4 does not look particularly relevant against this board state, and that has to be the nails in the coffin for Rietzl here, right?
Wow.
Yeah, he finds a land off the top. Oh, that Emrakul, so devastating for Rietzl's chances here. Robert Santana in Game 3 against one of the best players our game has seen, and he is on the verge of defeating him to move on to the semis.
Hats off to Paul making this a game for us to watch. You know, his ability to come into a match and, you know, fall so far behind. Most people would have just slumped over in their seat and given up.
Maybe
and
even conceded. I've seen people just be like, I'm done here.
I might have just conceded in
There's
that
a
spot.
burger waiting for me somewhere. I'm out of here. All right, so it looks like Robert decided just to attack with Emrakul. Then he's going to use a Languish, which doesn't kill any of his creatures, but kills Paul's creature. And Paul finds all lands, shows it to him, and Robert Santana advances to the semifinals. For Paul, this is going to have to just be another top 8 on his resume.
Yeah. One of many.
Of course, that leaves us with one match left over, by the way. That's Oliver Tomajko. He's the one on the back there. And then closest to us is Tanner. Tanner's on Bant Company, and Oliver's playing Rug Emerge. They're in Game 3, and you can see they're pretty far along in the game here.
Yeah. Some very young guns in this top 8 this weekend. Oliver, Tomajko, and Max Mick, both making it to the top 8 of a Grand Prix before they have the privilege of driving a vehicle.
Average age 14 and a half.
Yeah.
For those two. Yeah. Oliver's 15. Now, I'll be honest, we just jumped into this match, and I'm not sure exactly what's happening. My guess would be that it is the upkeep of Tanner, and we're seeing this Elder Deep Fiend come in. Is that how you're seeing it, Jake?
Yeah, that would be what's most likely.
Okay. And now, and that Oliver has decided to tap down the 4 lands. But wait, there's more. You can see down, just peeking out of the corner, there was a Kozilek's return that also got flashback.
Tanner playing that nicely, though, allowing the Kozilek's return trigger to resolve, having tapped, floated the mana, then using Ojutai's command to counter the Elder Deep Fiend and returning one of those Sylvan Advocates that had been destroyed by a Kozilek's return back to the battlefield.
Complex timing scenario there, but good explanation, Jake. And on top of it, he's got another one. So right back at it for Tanner with the exact same board state he had last turn when we came here.
Yeah.
2 copies of Sylvan Advocate.
With that Lumbering Falls in play, he is once again presenting lethal. Great abuse of the stack also. Deciding like when things are triggering, what's going on when, manipulating that to his advantage as much as possible.
Yeah, that was huge. Having a keen understanding of how exactly that all goes is really important.
Yeah.
In that scenario. Like he needed to have the Sylvan Advocate in the graveyard when he cast Ojutai's command so that he could bring it back and still counter the 5/6. Good stuff from Tanner. You play this enough and you get it, but these are,
That's a fairly advanced play.
Yeah, the Pro Tour was last week. That's where Elder Deep Fiend really made its breakout. So.
And we're used to cards often doing things when they enter the battlefield. Elder Deep Fiend, doing something when it, is cast as opposed to entering the battlefield makes it a little more complex in that regard also.
Oliver, of course, is playing Teamer Delirium, not Jund. You can see from the...
He's playing a Teamer Emerge deck.
Excuse me, a Teamer Emerge, not Jund Delirium is what I meant to say. Thank you.
Yeah, his deck's very similar to the one that Owen Turnwald played at the Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's where we first saw this strategy really break out.
Owen made all the way to the finals there. For eventually losing to Black-White. It's a deck that a lot of people thought he was favored against.
I think he did too. I think he probably was.
I agree, he probably was.
Yeah. But being favored does not mean overwhelmingly so, especially when you're dealing with the level of competition that we see at the Pro Tour. Lucas Blahan, of course, an excellent player in his own right.
Ishkana, again, we're seeing how strong it is against these Bant Company decks.
Selfless Spirit. Wow, Tanner just jamming with the team here. Forcing the issue. He's got that Selfless Spirit to kind of back him up.
I mean, that Lumbering Falls is a big boy.
Oh, yeah.
7/7 land there.
7/7? Boom. Clear away these spiders. And that worked out nicely for Tanner as well. He didn't even have to sacrifice his Selfless Spirit.
He was able to actually advance his board state a little bit while still, getting a couple of those spiders off the table. With Oliver at just 10, every single one of those blockers that's off the table, it's a little bit closer to victory.
A lot of lands here for Tamiko. And you saw it. Tanner says, go to my draw step, and Oliver's like, yep. You can see a summary dismissal in hand for Tanner as well, though he seemed to be more interested in firing up lands, so it looks like he's changed his mind on that.
It may be because he drew that summary dismissal that he's decided
he
to.
may have had it last turn as well. I'm not sure.
Summary Dismissal has been so good this weekend. The ability to counter these large Emerge and Eldrazi spells while also dealing with the triggered ability that goes on the stack. At times, it's able to, not only deal with the Eldrazi trigger, but also deal with the Kozilek's return trigger. And when you're able to do that, that's, their big turning point.
Look at this.
Requires
Oliver
a lot of
Tomajko
setup.
says, okay. I'll force some issues here as well. And Tanner says, yeah, sure, Selfless Spirit. Now he's going to pass. Okay, let's see. Oliver can find something here. Tanner going to sit back on that Summary Dismissal. Oliver's going to have noted that. I mean, last turn, Tanner fired up the Lumbering Falls and just went, "Rugh."
Yeah, when your opponent immediately changes their game plan, it's usually wise to think through, okay, well, especially in a situation like the top 8 where you've seen their deck list, you think, okay, well, what could he have in his hand that would make him change? Why would he not be attacking with that? The first thing that would jump to mind is Collected Company. But then he doesn't fire off the Collected Company in your end step. And then, again, you have to go back and you have to reassess the situation and say, okay, well, he didn't attack. He doesn't have Collected Company. What could it be? And when you really do the math and figure it out and think it has to cost more than 2 mana, Summary Dismissal is the only card remaining that it could be. So Oliver probably able to narrow it down to the very specific Summary Dismissal right now.
Uh-oh. That was a Dromoka's command off the top for Tanner. And it looks like he wants to squash a spider here. Tamiko doesn't seem to have much to do here. He's got 3 cards in his hand. He's got Kozilek's Return, a land, and then a card I can't quite see. It might be an Elder Deep Fiend.
Could be an issue here. Oddly enough, if Tanner now goes for...
So, I think that might have been an Elder Deep Fiend, the other card there, Jake, and I think he might be trying to set this up where he goes Kozilek's Return for nothing, and then is going to Deep Fiend away the Ishkanah that's going to die anyway, and then try to sweep the board of these 2 pesky Sylvan Advocates, and it's not going to work out well for Oliver, is it?
Not at all.
Summary Dismissal is going to look like an absolute all-star here with all these triggered abilities on the stack. There's a cast ability, there's a triggered ability from the Kozilek's Return, and then there's the actual Deep Fiend here as well. And the reason that you saw Tanner move that die off of his creature is Oliver saying, well, I'm doing this in response to your Dromoka's command. This is all instant speed. Here we go.
Yeah, now is he also, when he triggers this Kozilek's Return, it's just going to be unbelievable.
It is. Now, the Dromoka's command is also going to get exiled, right? But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, now it doesn't even have the fight target anymore.
Yeah, well, he doesn't get the counter or whatever. But who cares? This is going to exile all of it. So, Summary Dismissal says exile all other spells and counter all abilities.
Yeah, we really saw it.
There was 2 abilities and 2 spells on the stack. One happened to be Tanner's, but wow.
It's a card we expected to do big things this weekend, and here in the top 8, it's doing the biggest thing it's done on camera yet.
Oh, man.
That was just unbelievable.
The incredibly aptly named Summary Dismissal getting work done for Tanner Von Difloe, and it is going to be incredibly difficult for Oliver to come back now. And a Primal Druid is not going to do it, though. He does still have a Lumbering Falls, so he should be able to survive the turn. Let's see.
Well, it depends if Tanner
Tanner's
decides
got
to activate his own Lumbering Falls.
Yes, good point. If he does, he wins.
Correct.
Land in hand for Oliver, so...
Thing is, I think he has a pair of counter spells in hand. Tanner does.
What does he have? Clash of Wills in there or something?
In like Ojutai's command. So he may not want to activate that. It may seem risky to him. But, I mean, it's the win.
If he can activate it and still cast one of them, then it seems fine. if he can't, then I could definitely see him being like, all right, attack with both. You have to double chump. And he's going for it. That's it. Tanner von Difloe is through, and Oliver Tomajko. Nice work. We'll see you at the Pro Tour, Oliver, and I'm sure that we'll see you back again. All right, and that's going to do it for our quarterfinals here from Portland.
Summary dismissal.